flexible degree. I think history is great, English is great. They're all great because they all teach you different things. But my recommendation is find a major that is important to you. And then I probably look crazy as hell.
That's fine.
Find a major that's important to you and then take other classes along the way that are interesting. That's what you do, is you supplement the main stuff with the things that you need. Like if you're gonna do political science, if it's not a requirement, I would recommend taking an economics class. Maybe a macroeconomics class, because that's more theory based than math based in my experience.
I've taken a macro and a microeconomics class.
Okay. So that's good.
And I found at the time to understand micro much better.
Okay. Well, that's good. I think it's good that you do that because you have
But the math side of macro was what was the thing that deterred me from macro.
The macro that I took was more theory based. But it helped with political science classes because the political science classes gave you the context to understand why people approach the economy the way that they do. Because at the end of the day, like, economics is a very political field. Because everything that people say, they do, that literally affects how money moves. Like if somebody says, like if somebody with an authoritative voice decide, like all
There's
of a sudden,
a tension behind saying something because it will have a shift in the market.
Yeah, and like regulations, for example, that's political. But regulations also affect the economy because what happens is then people are like, if the United States suddenly decided to become heavily regulated, people are going to move their business to another country. Because like I don't want to be in a country that's regulated like this. They go to China. I don't give a fuck about the EPA. Why would I do that? So they go to China and they outsource the labor where it's cheap and they don't have to worry about polluting it. Like they can pollute as much as they need or they want. So like the two are always linked. Like political science gives you a nice insight into all these things that you see. Like, oh, that makes sense. Why somebody would do. Oh, even the theory. Like even though the theory can be dense, number one, there's always a spark notes. Number two, there's always class time when they talk about it. Because what happens is you get caught up in the reading, like this shit is so ridiculous, it's so hard. Professors don't expect you to read 200 pages in 3 days. What they expect you to do is skim it. Come back the next day, share whatever thought you have, either you're right or you're wrong, and they'll tell you what they think or how they interpret it.
I assume you've learned some good techniques for skimming?
Absolutely. I read the beginning, and then I read the end, and then I work my way backward. If there's a bold or italicized, I take a second to read that paragraph, and that gives me most of what I need to know, especially for a long reading. But if you read, like if they have an abstract, read the abstract. They tell you what they want. You read the opening, they tell you what they want. If it's a research paper, read the introduction. Like I said, if you see any bolded points or any subheadings, skim that very quickly. If it doesn't seem important, skip all the way down to findings or results or whatever, and how they interpret their findings. And that's whatever you read. At least you know generally what it's about. You may not know all the individual bullet points, but you'll know what the purpose of the reading was supposed to be. It's not as hard, like it is like,
my mind gets stuck on the minute details by trying to read every word.
And that is why a lot of people don't like humanities classes, because there's so much reading. But what happens is you need
to figure out how to pick what you're reading.
Exactly. And you have to remember that, again, professors do not expect you, even the ones that say they demand that you read everything, they know not everybody's going to read everything. There will be somebody in the class who's read everything, and they'll carry the class, whatever, that's fine. But you don't have to, unless it's English, you don't have to read every single word. And just keep that in mind as you do it. That's the important part. Like I was an EF tutor. This kid came in, he was reading like Marxism stuff or whatever. And like sometimes with a paper prompt, it might be important to read everything, but also that's what Control F is for. If you have a PDF document, you can find keywords, Control F, and just type in the keyword and that's it. Sometimes I don't even read. If I know what the unit is supposed to be, I have to say the unit is macroeconomics in Indonesia, and they mention like a particular practice, like
if you're breaking down, if you're researching this topic, and you're going into your research, the initial beginnings of your research, how much time are you spending on each website reading or each source?
Maybe like 10 minutes. 10. If you like any
You're
longer,
not going to sit there and read 2 hours of one source.
No, because you have to move on to the next thing. The important part is you just have to find, like I said, it's easier if you find like something in JSTOR, for example, or you find a PDF document where if you type in Control F, any word is interactive. That's easy. You read the introduction, you read the conclusion, you Control F the word you're looking for in your paper. Like if you know the theme of your paper is Mary Jane. Control F Mary Jane. How many times does Mary Jane pop up in the paper? If it pops up one time and you go to that sentence and it's not about Mary Jane the way you think, disregard the paper.
Okay. So then question. So you find your topic, so you have your topic, you find the source that has Mary Jane. Do you then research the author of the source and
you could
see their background of their perspective on
if that's,
Mary Jane
if that's like a necessity for your paper and you need to talk, like if that's relevant information, like you're saying, well, sometimes on papers they might ask you to list also like in addition to your resources, like if you have like a literature review, you have to specify like the author's background as well, like what institution do they work for, because if you're writing a paper on a topic, whatever institution they work for might affect how their perspective on the issue. But I would say though, sometimes it's just relevant, like they might have other relevant papers that are helpful, because sometimes you don't have to look too far with an author. Like you can find something like, this is kind of what I'm looking for.
They might have a niche that they spend time researching.
That's their job. They do all the heavy lifting for you. Like you just, like the one paper might not work, but you might be able to find more by them that actually are related. And if you can't, just keep looking up keywords. You've got Google Scholar, straight up regular old Google, JSTOR. A lot of colleges are connected to databases in their websites that they have. You can go to a library.
You said JSTOR, that's a website?
You can go to a library, honestly, at whatever school, and just straight up ask them, like, I need research help. And in my experience, a lot of librarians, they have master's degrees, like in this.
This gets into a perfect topic. Asking for help in school. Something I don't think I have done enough and has been pretty last minute when I do it. Typically when I've asked for help, it's midterm is when I'm asking for help. And then after that, I'm now coming to you because by midterm, I'm needing help. Or how do you go about asking for help?
I try to ask, the moment something feels confusing to me, ideally that is when I should ask. I should not wait until I filled in a whole bunch of things, especially if you're doing research, because it builds on itself. So like if you've got one detail that's messed up, don't do it. Or if you're like, you get the prompt and you're like, I actually don't understand what you want.
So do you email your professor? Do you just like...
I email them. I'd say like, hey, I have some questions about the essay. Do you have any time? Like if they have office hours posted online, just say, do you have any time available between XYZ for me to show up and we can talk about paper? And then they'll say, sure. And like, it might help to write down the questions that you have so you don't forget them by the time you go. You could say like, I just need some help with the prompts. Can you explain what you're looking for in the prompts or what they mean? And some professors, sometimes, like in my experience, sometimes they'll be straight up and they'll say, what I want you to write about is blank, blank, and blank. And that's easy because now they've given you the exact topics you want, and everybody's got a syllabus. Everybody's got assigned readings. So sometimes you don't even have to go beyond the readings they give you. You don't have to do your own research. You can just pull the readings that they've given you.
Because they provided it.
Yeah, and if they're really organized, a lot of them will have topic areas for like the specific time in the syllabus. So they'll have like the readings, but they'll also say like you're talking about...
It'll probably look better for your...
to write, especially if they write a paper and they have their paper as one of the assigned readings and you include that information, they love that. They love that. They're like, oh my God, somebody used my reading. Somebody paid attention. But like, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if somebody's already provided you with information. Ever, at any point. Like, that's my perspective. Like, it does not
trying to reinvent the wheel will waste your time.
It's an absolute waste of time. They did it for you. Like, a lot of people feel like there's a great big burden of all these things they have to do. There's not anything extra that you have to do. Like, just, if it is a straightforward answer, it's probably a straightforward answer. It's not like math, where you're like, I did all that and I got 7? That's weird. No, this is like, they told you explicitly what they want. So give them exactly what they want. And then, like, if they want an opinion on top of that, then you interpret the information how you see it. Like, that's it. But I always say ask for help sooner rather than later. And I say be crystal clear. I say ask as many questions as you want because they're getting paid to answer your questions. They're getting paid to teach. They're also getting paid to answer your questions. And people, if they have office hours, chances are they want you to use them. I've had professors literally go, yeah, my office hours from blank to blank. I mean, I never really see anyone. But they're open because they want somebody to talk to. Classes. Yeah, they want somebody to talk to.
Or they're like, at the end of the year, there was this one person that was always in office hours.
Or even if you want to just go shoot the breeze with them, that can be insightful.
I feel like a bit of my social anxiety in the classroom makes me intimidated by the teachers.
Makes sense.
And when I've asked for help, it's usually not me emailing. It's me waiting till the end of class, which is probably not the time in college.
Well, it's not the worst time
to be asking.
That's not the worst.
Because then I won't always get my question answered.
Do you mean the end of class, like right when the bell rings and everything?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad. If they have free time afterwards, sometimes they'll stay and talk to you. That's why I always like smaller schools, because they have smaller windows of time, less people they teach. They're flexible. They probably live in the town where the college is. Like, their home isn't far away. They're not really in a rush, especially if they're old. And this is like
they're going to be in that. They're gonna
they'll talk to you about that.
Staying there for an hour.
They're chilling. Yeah. I've literally talked to professors for like 20, 30 minutes after class, overtime, for whatever reason. Like, people like that type of stuff. But, swoon-worthy, witty, period piece. But, that's what I always recommend, poli-sci. It looks different at different schools. Like, I'm sure some of them are more data-oriented, some are more theory-oriented. Oberlin has always been in my experience, it's been a very theory-heavy school. Like, some professors lean more heavily on graphs and grids and things like that. I noticed that with the younger professors, they have a big emphasis on data and numbers. And that's the other thing. If you don't know how to read numbers and stuff like that, don't not ask questions. Like, immediately ask questions. And even if it
looks like a fool.
Yeah, like if you feel like there's a dumb question, it's not a dumb question. There's not a dumb question, because what's dumb is writing a paper on something you don't know about. That's dumb. That was my biggest regret in college, was never asking enough questions about grids and graphs, because that is one thing that helps political science. Like, if you have a math mind and you can do statistics and you can do political science, you can get a job. Because now everybody...
Sasha's very good with statistics.
Yeah, actually. Like, if you work for a campaigns like thrive on statistics. They need to know who wants what, how do they want it, how many people, this demographic. If you can say I have political statistics or whatever, or something like that, or sociology, something like that, whatever. People eat that shit up, because you can work for anybody. Like, anybody can write a paper, anybody can go on the street and ask questions, but not everybody can interpret data for someone. If you can interpret data for a campaign, if you can interpret data for a company, that gives you a leg up over the guy who only has one area of expertise. You can both be very smart, but the difference is they don't need to have an extra person do the job. You can do two jobs at once. You can work on their communication stuff or whatever. Like, especially campaigns, if you don't have to spend money, you don't want to spend money. So if you're trying to be really smart and you can not only talk to them about like really interesting trends that people like, but also say like, and here are the numbers that back it up. This is my data table that I made. Or not even if you make it, you can just read it to them. Like, this is the data table I found. What it's saying is blah, blah, blah. You don't have to have a consultant do that. You've got somebody in-house who can do that. That was my big thing. I wish I had done that. But yeah. All the disciplines mingle. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, you can have a degree in biology, you can be pre-med and never become a doctor. You can just literally work as a medical, like a consultant at a company. Like, you can do anything. The problem is just having experience. Like, with science people, they probably do this everywhere, but I know at Oberlin for the science people, you have to have done X amount of years of research in a lab. And like, you can get your name published on a paper undergrad. I don't think that's mandatory, but you have to have X amount of research. Political science, you don't have to have internships, but internships help. Like people in high school, like the thing about it is some people who start early in high school, they have an advantage. So like, yeah, I've been doing NGOs since I was little. They've been at community advocacy organizations. Like, I've been doing Save the Turtle shit forever, like whatever. That's all relevant information. If you've ever had a job where you've been a manager, you can work as part of a team. You can be on a research team, like whatever it is. That's all that matters. So, or if you can get somebody really good to vouch for you, and they can just say, I've seen them in action, both in the classroom and helping me with my research and blah, blah, blah. As professors, you need a TA. What do you need? You don't have to like kiss ass all the time, but just let them know like I'm available. Like if you ever want to talk, or like if you have any like or you ever need student assistance on a project, I'm here. I need something to do. Or if you know of anybody who's offering internships, or you mentioned that you worked in Dubai for 4 years, do you happen to know anybody who's still there? Can you put me in contact with them? People love doing stuff like that. And when the professor vouches for you, especially if they're well liked by the person they're putting you in contact with, that's a good sign. I didn't thought this was the N word. Whoa. Sorry. Sorry. But yeah, I was like, oh my god, they put that there as McGregor.
Fuck him.
Cowboy Bebop. I need to finish that. Yeah, but that's it. A lot of things feel more intimidating than they are, and then you psych yourself out. I see my dad do this all the time. Like, this guy has been in the field of medicine since before I was born. But he has no formal certification in anything. But his life experience and him going from job to job to job to job, like in medicine, he's very smart. Mm-hmm. But he thinks he cannot do it. He thinks, like, he gets frustrated very easily. But the thing is, he has all the knowledge right there. Like, people don't take him seriously, unfortunately, because he doesn't have the paperwork, which is crazy to me because I'm like, he definitely knows. He knows as much as the doctor. Like, you sit all the, like, you, number one, he was a nurse in the army, so he's had at least basic understanding of medicine or whatever. You can point anywhere in your body, he can tell you what that bone is.
So you're saying that the lack of paperwork is
it's real,
like the sole reason.
It's very real, because what happens is sometimes for places you have to have a certification in something. Mm-hmm. You have to have a minimum of a bachelor's.
Well, I'm finding on Indeed for even very basic jobs, they like to have, say, some kind of small certification in welding or electrical or something. Mm-hmm. For like a base janitorial job. You might learn on the job that skill, but for them to look at your resume,
they don't see the certification.
They don't see the certification, so they don't even want to think about the skill with you.
They don't. And a lot of jobs, they use algorithms to look at your paperwork. They don't have people do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So, like, for example,
I don't put cover letters on, and it might be that the algorithm eliminates it because there's no cover letter.
Yeah. And I know for me, like, I was putting in, like, for a job, I was like, do you have a college degree? I was still in school. I was about to graduate, but I was still in school. So technically,
so you're putting high school, and they didn't have some college option.
Yeah, I got an automatic response that same day. Within like an hour, you've been rejected from the job.
Yeah.
Because I didn't say that I had a college degree. So it's little things like that.
What kind of job was that for?
I think it was like a paralegal or like an assistant or something like that. That's the other thing with political science. You can do anything. You can do law, regular old politics. You can just do advocacy work for people. Like, if you ever feel like you're having a hard time, you can work for an NGO. Like, NGOs are always looking for volunteers, people to help. They might not pay a lot, but they might not pay at all. But what they do give you, is good work experience. Because with an NGO, like with a nonprofit, for example, that's really small and they have an intimate team, they'll have you do everything. So by the time you walk away, you could say, I've done Excel, I've scheduled meetings, I've event planned, I've done X, Y, Z, like I have all these different things. And you do like 2 or 3 of those or whatever, you keep yourself busy. That's important.
For that reason, I'm starting to think that if you don't have a college degree and if you can't get in, receptionist might be a good starting job to get
to other stuff. Yeah.
Or other stuff, because you're dealing with setting people's meetings, rescheduling meetings, people coming to the store, corporate location.
Like, especially if it's small. Because I worked in the front desk of a library as a circulation assistant. But because it was a small library, and there'd only be sometimes one person on duty at a time, they had you do everything. They'd be like, yeah, okay, so in addition to working the front desk, I need you to do some research on some artist books. I need you to help me set up for a class. I need you to go back there and pull this book. I need you, like, there's people who work on fixing the binding of books, or people who laminate books, like whatever it is. Like, those little niche things are helpful. And one thing you can say is, I'm a great multitasker. I worked at a library and I did blah, 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 blah. Like, even saying that in person is helpful, especially if you want an assistant job.
Was the book laminator job probably a college degree job?
No, it wasn't a college degree. It's just like it's like some things aren't always relevant, but everything is important, because as long as you can talk about it well and describe how you could do 8 things at the same time, that's a great thing. Like, everybody, like, if somebody needs somebody to work as a personal assistant for them, and you can say, yeah, I've done this, 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 and this. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, I don't need you to laminate books, but clearly you can laminate books and answer the phone and go to the elevator and bring up heavy books or whatever at the same time. Like,
and for that reason, that's why a college degree, even though I don't like saying this, but that's why a college degree is looked at so valuable, is even if it's in something like film, you have spent your time doing classes and projects and reached deadlines, met deadlines.
Because sometimes they'll just say like any related degree. Some jobs will say any related degree, and it could be very loose. Like if you have a film studies thing or whatever, you can do commercials for a campaign. Like you can work with their communications department, like whatever. I'm sure. Like there's always going to be a place like unfortunately the paper really stands in the way. And like in one sense, like literally speaking, you don't need a college degree. Literally speaking, you don't need a college degree as long as you can find enough opportunities.
But the opportunities only present themselves
when you have a degree.
If you have a degree or you right people, right place, right time.
Exactly.
If it's not college, it is right people, right place, right time.
So it is safer to cover your base, in my opinion, by getting a degree.
Yes. Because
at least that way you've got the bare minimum, which puts you on an even keel with somebody else. Because there can be two people, one person with a degree, one person without a degree. The person without the degree has had so much experience. And unless the employer is flexible and they're reading it themselves and not some computer and they're open to like negotiating with you, you're not going to get that job. And the other person's going to get that job because they have a degree. My mom, where she worked, she's worked at places before where she didn't have a master's, but what they did was they looked at her resume and they're like, okay, well, you've been doing this for so long. How about this? You come work for us. You just have to get your master's while you work for us. And she got her master's. But again, that was a place of work that was flexible. That was open to that. Not everybody's open to that. And now everybody's about maximizing time and data. So that unfortunately entails removing the human component from understanding candidates. They're like, oh, well, I don't really need to care. I just need my computer to scan this stuff and run it through, like a Scantron. Like, I mean, it's not a Scantron, but it's the same thing. So I'll always recommend people getting a degree, like, unless you're like, I'm going to open like a store. But even then, you need to go to school for something to understand business. You can't just open a store. Like, you need to know something.
You have to know something.
You have to know something.
If you want to create, you have to have knowledge to create with. And that's something that I'm currently dealing with and I think about as I kind of keep halting myself as I'm drawing and coming up with a story, is I have the basis of the story, but there's a lot of niche detail that I feel would be even better and would make the story even better if I was just more knowledgeable on whether it be the given topic. Maybe it is someone else is knowledgeable and I can work with them. But you would find those people to have those discussions in a knowledge-filled space. And the most knowledge-filled space is school. So whether it's for a hobby that is meant to eventually become a career, or just something that you want to get better at, being surrounded by knowledgeable people will help you progress in that.
The school is a fixed network of people. Like, you don't have to go find them. Like, you know that they will be at that institution. You know there's a directory at that institution. You know there's a department at that institution. You know that you can go to probably find somebody who does visual arts. And if they can't help you, they might know somebody who can help you. And now you've got them. And maybe they can't help you, but you can go to the English department and somebody there might have a graphic novel specialty. And I'm like, oh, well, I know I don't do them, but I study them, but I know somebody who can help you with them, or something like that. Like, that is the other thing. Like, yes, like, the degree may or may not be important, but what is important about college is, again, like you said, knowing people. And college doesn't even have to be the right place at the right time. It's only the right place. That's it. It's not the right time, anything like that. You just go to school, and you can just take a second to figure out who's who, and look them up and email them and just say, hello, professor, do you have any time to go to like Pete's Coffee and like talk? I have a question. I have some stuff I need to figure out.
I would say my Tampa experience was right place, wrong time.
Yeah, it was a big school. There's a lot of people there.
Right place, wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
Right place, new place,
Mm-hmm.
place to learn, place to
Mm-hmm.
grow. Wrong time,
Mm-hmm.
in time of growing,
Mm-hmm.
but growing in a way that is not in a linear trajectory, growing in going through tough experience.
Mm-hmm.
Going through tough experience doesn't have to be while I'm in school.
Mm-hmm.
And for that being while I was in school was negative to my educational experience
Mm-hmm.
and has put a damper on how I view education going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all because of the time of my life that I was attempting to learn.
But I will say too, though, the longer you wait to go to school, the more challenging it will be because you have other commitments. Like you will eventually, like when you are no longer independent and you're by yourself,
Then you have to pay.
you have to pay. And they're probably less likely to give you more money unless you can provide some sort of miraculous, like, these are all the things that I'm so incredible. Like, otherwise, it's going to be hard. And you have to pay, and that debt will become all yours. Now, the degree will also be all yours. You've earned that. But still, like, I don't know. The longer you wait, the more difficult it can be. And the thing is, school, unfortunately, I learned the hard way. I was like, college, no, it's not like the movies, and college will never be easy. And everybody I know, everybody I know at the same time, literally everyone, whether it was a big school, a small school, the north, the south, cold or hot, everybody had a horrendous transition into college. Yes.
Years?
Yes.
Or you're just talking in general?
Deborah, me, it was hard. It was not easy at all. Like, socially, academically, it was a lot. And the thing is, I just realized it's just like that. It will always be like that. It will be brutal. And people make it seem like it's going to be these magical, easy years. In the beginning, it is not magical, easy years. For some people, it might be. But you have, like, the thing is, you have to remember that it is hard. It's hard for a reason. And that helps you stay on track and not quit or beat yourself up. Because what happens is, you think, oh, this shit is supposed to be easy. There's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. School is hard. I had to learn that for myself because I was losing my shit freshman year. I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I really can't do this. And COVID happened, and then I had to just do it from home, which was even worse because I was already going through all the college stuff, and then I had to do all that shit from my home. And I was like, this is terrible. I get up every day and I stare at the same screen all day, and I try to learn, and it fucked up my mind. And some people never recovered from that. I'm recovering from that, but it's not easy. And like I found myself having to tell a lot of freshmen that when I was like a peer advisor, because a lot of them like, I don't know, it's just really hard. And I explained to them, like, I had to be frank. And there was this one girl, she was black, she wanted to go into English. I said, I'm gonna be honest with you, you will be the only girl that looks like you in a lot of your classes, depending upon what you're looking at. But that's how it is. It's not you. You can't let that get to you. It will get to you at some point, but you can't let it win. At some point, you have to, like, it sounds so corny, like, believe in yourself.
You need to stop internalizing.
Yes, you can't take everything personally. Because what happens is you start taking everything personally, and you really do think it's you, and it's not you. It's just hard. It's just difficult, and that's it. And like,
that put me into a bad place for years.
Yeah, my dad.
Because of that.
I try to talk to my dad about that. But he's like, he gets very depressed, like clinically, and it's very easy for him to like really lose his mojo and become really like down, and that affects him, and that prevents him from finishing things and doing things because he's like, this is hard, and it's like, but it's supposed to be hard. That does not reflect you. You can handle it. And sometimes we have
this feeling of difficulty and struggle is intentional because when you will face the struggle after completing this one, now you've learned from your past struggle to, okay, this is difficult, this is more complex. Let me do the things that I can relate to, I can relate from my previous work, and then I will.
And a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people don't like, what was I going to say? It's difficult. What were we saying? It's difficult. It's hard.
You were talking about how your dad gets into the depressive state because not being able to complete something because it's difficult. because it's difficult, you're not completing
Mm-hmm.
because you're getting depressed over the difficulty of it.
And then it becomes a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because what happens is you start something, you're like, fuck, this is too hard, and then you don't finish it. And then you're upset because you didn't finish something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, why did you start something again?
But then you're not even going to start something because you think you're not going to finish it.
Start it, exactly. Either that or you end up starting and stopping.
It becomes a chaotic mentality of incompletion.
What I was gonna say is a lot of people don't think like, remember all the other things that you've done in your life. Yes. Think about how far you got up to this point. It wasn't for no reason. It was not because you're a moron. It's because you did it, and it was hard, and you have been through hard things, and you will always be going through hard things. So this is no different than what happened before. People go through things all the time. People end up in wheelchairs. People get fucked up. People get hurt, but they forget that they've gone through all these things. And then suddenly they're like brand new, like, oh God, I can't do it. I'm like, you can do it. You've been through some crazy things before, like you've almost died, or you've been dumped, or like all these, nothing may feel relevant, but in some form or fashion, either like academically, professionally, emotionally, you've hit rock bottom before, or you've had a really hard time before.
Yes.
And you came out of it, so you can do it again. Now, like, obviously, if you're like, it's a chemical imbalance thing, and you genuinely can't, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about,
but even with that, I think it's
chocolate chip on my shorts. No, it melted.
I think it's important that what I have found has been improving my mentality is.
We should watch The Wiz.
Should we watch The Wiz?
Have you ever seen The Wiz before?
I have, but I could rewatch. I haven't seen that in like 7-8 years. That's been.
When is it playing? I'm listening. I just said that because we were talking about believing in yourself. That movie.
Look for it. No, it's what I find is, I hope, and it is only a hope because I am saying it as so. You can make it reality, but I believe that this past October was my lowest rock bottom. It has been the lowest rock bottom thus far, but depending on how you continue past, it can be your last rock, the lowest you've gone, or you can keep going down. And when I'm in a uncomfortable place of being bored or a feeling of not being content, I think back to how chaotic my emotions were at that period of time because of emotional lack of identification. And now, by identifying the emotion I am feeling, I can be like, this is a great feeling of boredom, but it is the feeling of not being stimulated. I've been way overstimulated before, and that's not a good feeling. So me being in this kind of uncomfortable state of boredom isn't that bad.
It's true.
And that is kind of the state that I need to learn to exist in, because that uncomfortable, if you can get comfortable with it, will just become your norm.
And just because this one aspect of your life is difficult, sometimes it will just always be hard in that way. But there are other ways to make your life meaningful. Like college can be hard. You can stay in college. College can be really hard as shit. But as long as you can find another way to make yourself happy, that's what's important. Like my mother, I love my mom. That woman is a workaholic. I don't know if I can ever get her to stop working as hard as she does. But one thing I can't say is that she does not live her life. She goes to work and she gets gray hair and she stresses herself the fuck out. But then she'll go, I'm gonna go on a vacation. Or she's like, I'm gonna go sing. She used to do that for a long time. Like she would go to her job, she would break her back at work, but then she would turn around and go sing in a music group.
I bet she has a lot of girls' nights now.
Yeah, she does.
With being in Arizona.
She does. She goes out. She has a lot of friends. She does stuff. And she's still, I don't know how she does it. She does all that shit completely sober, just in the present. And I'm so happy for her. And I need to learn from her.
That's something, yeah.
But, yeah.
To learn to enjoy an emotion, to identify an emotion, and then accept that emotion as that emotion is one of the most difficult things.
It is.
And it's the cause of emotional imbalance is the lack of identification. That's like that's the biggest thing I've learned in rehab was when you are in a state of dismay, it is because
You don't understand.
you aren't letting yourself be sad. If you are sad, you might react angrily towards other people because you're not accepting that you are just in a sad state. If you accept you're in a sad state, you can finish crying.
I always think about that, like...
But people won't always let you.
That's true.
And you have to make space and organize your life so that you can.
Sometimes life circumstances won't let you. You don't have time. I was like that. I was like, I don't have time to grieve. I don't have time to feel sad. It's not a good decision at all. Came out at the wrong time. But that's what separates us from babies. Because babies can't tell you what's wrong. You really do have to guess with babies. Like they can't explain what's wrong. That's why they're always crying about something.
Yeah.
Because they like wake up and like, oh my god, I'm pissed off.
It's
right now.
just
there's something's not right, but they can't tell you. Then when you get older, you're like, oh, I have to pee. You go pee. Oh, I'm hungry. Oh, I'm gonna go make myself something to eat. Oh, I shit myself. I'm gonna go take a shower. That was a terrible comparison.
No, that was a great comparison. That was a great comparison. I think that's a good place to end it. No, it's video. I'm curious if there's any space on the phone. It's been like 30 minutes.
It has been like that. It's probably like, hey, you can't record that. You're never gonna be able to send that anywhere.
Oh my god.
Like,